Hello, hello.
We are live yet again.
I was leaving the whoop whoop for you.
Well, I'm going to change it up and I'm not going to do the woot woot today.
Oh, okay. No whoop whoop necessary.
No woot woot necessary. We're taking up a lot of space on YouTube. I love this. We're just putting our, selves out there.
We are. So what's new in your world?
Oh, you want me to ask you a funny question for today? Let's
Yeah, I
see.
do.
Well, I don't know if it's funny, but let's see. Here's a good one. What purchase have you made like less than $100 or, something small, but that has positively impacted your life? That's a good one.
So um, you know, because I have such a terrible memory, but last week, this is kind of funny. I purchased copal sticks, which were like almost nothing. But can I tell you how happy they make me? Because every time I burn it, they just smell good by themselves, but also it takes me back to our Mexican retreat every time I burn it.
Oh my God.
And because, we talked about that numerous times, like the retreat center was burning it everywhere all day. Like wherever we walked, there was this beautiful.
I swear there was practically somebody chasing us with Kapow.
We'd come out of our casita and there would be a stick of copal burning. And then we'd get to the dining hall and there would be copal burning. And it's just, like there's a lot of things that we burn and some of them smell great. Some of the fake incenses that people burn just burn my nose and I can't stand it. But there's something about the copal that just is very like grounding and nurturing and yeah, it just feels good. So it was like, I bought like 80 sticks of it. Also, so I could share with the people who attended our event last Friday night. But $20 or something for 80 sticks of copal, that was a deal.
Money
And just I burnt one this morning when I got to the office. And
I think for me, because I've always smelled copal in a ceremonial environment, it always takes me back there, right? Like that, it's instantly sacredness. It's instantly feels like good weather, right? Like it's instantly reminds me of how things tasted and how our experience. I think my favorite copal memory was that night that they did dinner for us, like under the stars, how we were literally sitting outside and the weather was perfect and they were just bringing us food. Like, oh my God, that was so incredible. And like, we had our own, like your own dedicated stick of incense. Who does that? Who does that? Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
So what's your purchase?
Well, you're going to laugh, but it's probably all my malas that I get from Julieta Soul Candy. So
I love that one.
I'm wearing this one, which it's orange. What's this stone again?
That's carnelian.
Carnelian. I can never remember. I just know how they feel. I can never remember the names of the stones, but this one I wear because I love the creativity that I feel. But I have another one that has tiger's eye, and that one is what I call like my moneymaker. It is my manifestation one. And every time I have a big event that I just need like an extra boost, I'm telling you, it shows up, it does the job. Like that is absolutely one of my favorites. I tend to wear a lot of tiger's eye. Like I have quite a few. So I think for whatever reason, that's one of my, one of the ones that's always working with me.
It's a good stone. It's a lucky stone. Yeah.
Yeah. So
awesome.
I'm enjoying your work. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you for supporting me. All right, let's bring our guest on. Welcome, Laura. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
We are happy you're here too. Will you please take a minute to introduce yourself to our audience? Tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what keeps you passionate about what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Laura Kelley. I'm an immigration attorney. I have my own practice, and I am also a life coach for attorneys. And I try to help attorneys find joy, harmony, and peace in their practices and their lives. And I think that what keeps me passionate is helping the helpers. That's what I always come back to, is helping the helpers. And it doesn't have to be just immigration attorneys, but so many women especially get into the law not because they want to make money, but because they recognize this is the best way that they are able to help society and help other people.
And there is helper fatigue. There's what a great niche to go into, because I spent 20 years in the legal field, and the staff were just so completely unprepared for I'm going to call it like the secondary trauma that you're experiencing because of the stories that show up, right? And the clients and their experiences. And, everyone taught us how to do the job, but no one told us how to manage the emotional toil of working with folks who have been traumatized. There was a book that I read called Trauma Stewardship, I think it's called. You've heard of it? Yes. And it just, what I love is that the book opens with her talking about how differently she sees the world because of her experiences. So I'm curious, how do you work with attorneys in those spaces?
Well, I have to say, I think that people who are dealing with trauma, they need to be specifically trained to deal with trauma, both secondary and primary trauma. And in fact, nowadays, there's this idea that secondary trauma doesn't exist. It's just trauma. Like, why are we making it like primary, secondary? It's just trauma. We are all dealing with a trauma. And when we hear whether something happens to us or we're listening to it, it's still happening to us because we still have to hold space for somebody who's dealt with a very traumatic event. So I think people really need to have very specific training to work with that. Training that I do not have. So I want to be really clear about that. It's not something to just think, oh, I can help people with trauma. No, you have to really be educated and I would say licensed to do that. And so and that's for, I would say, mental health professionals. As a coach or even as a mentor, so I'm also the president of the American Immigration Lawyers Association South Florida chapter. And so, when we're thinking about doing, and I'm also on the our well-being committee for our national organization. And it used to be called the Lawyer Wellbeing Committee, but we're changing the name because we want to include the paralegals, the assistants, the support staff as well. Like, we cannot be just focused on attorneys and the trauma that they're facing or the well-being issues that they're facing. Anyways, point being, we have to be very mindful about what we can and cannot do and how we process trauma differently. And so I think the idea is to have the resources to share with people so that they can get the help that they need when it comes to trauma. And then also, I've had to do my own work on this. I've been an immigration attorney for over 10 years now. And, there's a lot of people who go into this field with a martyr complex, like that they are literally, or savior complex, that they can save people. I save people's lives. My job is to save people's lives. And that is a lot of pressure, and it's not true. And so that's one of the things that I try to if you think that your job is to save people's lives, rather than recognizing the role that we're all playing in this larger universe, and recognizing that, one of the things I like to say to my clients and to my other fellow colleagues is, my client's karma is not my karma. It's not my karma. And my karma is not their karma. And so we all just have to do the best that we can, given our karma, given the universe, given everything that's playing out. Now that's a very long-winded response.
No, it's a great response. And, it means so much to me that you're including paralegals and staff and things like that, because, when I was in the field, we were the front lines, so the attorneys would have the, short legal focus, these are the things that we need to get done. And then the client would hang up with the attorney, call back the staff and be like, okay, so what did he mean?
Right.
And then they would want to like therapy with us. And it was like, we're not qualified for that. And also, how do you hang up on somebody that just lost a family member, right? So there's just so much of that. I mean, I did 20 years of that. And when I was done, I was done. I love all my clients very much, and you can't help but fall in love with their stories. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are providing information on how to set boundaries, how to set your own protections, right?
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that we talk about turnover in the law, not only for attorneys, but for support staff. And then, we don't have, law firm owners and supervisors really, caring for the emotional bandwidth and mental health of the support staff as well. I mean, including attorneys. It definitely has to be a holistic approach. And I'm glad that my national organization is definitely making strides in that. I think the ABA, the American Bar Association, is also making strides with this, because, again, one of the biggest things we talk about when we talk about boundaries is delegate, right? But you're delegating a lot of very difficult emotional things to support staff who are not trained. And it's like the attorneys, I would say, I'm not trained to deal with this either. It's like, but that, we can't just put it off on somebody else and then be like, not my problem, I'm not going to deal with it. And that's how you get that burnt out assistants, paralegals, and
for sure. And as much as I appreciate it, like bagels on a Friday ain't cutting the trauma. Like we need deeper work. We need deeper work. So with the work that you do you go into firms and speak to them, or tell me a little bit more about what your daily work looks like?
So right now, because I'm the president of my chapter, I've taken a step back on my normal coaching program. So I had up until the last couple of months a group coaching program where we would I had a platform where people could come in, watch modules at their own pace, and then every week we would have a group coaching session. And I also offered one-on-one classes. I have on various occasions gone into law firms to create like a cohesive team around some of my coaching concepts. So, for example, one of my big things is, mindful communication, time management, and boundaries. And it's all well and good if a certain portion of a firm does this, right? Or like one attorney does it. But if everybody's not on the same page, you're not having a cohesive team. So going into in a firm setting and getting everybody on the same page is really helpful. And I've had good feedback from the law firms who have worked with me on that. Taking like 3 hours even can really make some changes. But again, the law firm culture has to be prepared for that, because, when I come in and I say, listen, some bosses, want to be able to just pick up the phone and call anybody at any time and interrupt their workflow. Same thing with assistants. They just want to come and walk into your office, if you're in person, and ask questions. And my big thing is like, we need to stop interrupting each other so that we can be efficient, so that we can work. And when we set office hours where we can interrupt each other or ask questions or get the support that we need. But it can't be a free for all every day, everybody interrupting people. And the questions I always get is like, yes, but how can I explain this to my boss? I'm like, okay, so that's where the mindful communication comes in, So but the law firm culture has to be prepared to do things differently. And if you know anything about law firm owners, that's the big struggle. Also, like paralegals who've been doing the same thing the same way for many, many years, there's resistance to change, right? That's the big thing. Resistance to change. But without Without change, we don't have growth. We don't have progress. So you can either keep it exactly the same, something that's clearly not working, or you wouldn't be reaching out to me to, like, you know, make some changes. You have to actually be willing to make the changes.
I was going to say, change is an interesting concept in all, you know, because the only thing that's constant is change.
Right.
And how do we as human beings become more open to embracing it? And because everything is always changing.
I mean, and the good news is how much it adds to your bottom line. Like, you know, I know, like how you said, you know, law firm owners, like, okay, talk that language. The language is that it does affect your bottom line, because happiness always leads to flow, and flow leads to happiness, and you know, and that affects your bottom line. So
happy workers are productive workers, and that's true. You know, and Julietta, the idea of change is constant. You know, I always say we hate uncertainty, right? And change creates, you know, uncertainty. But that's, like you said, it's things are always changing. Everything is uncertain. What we believe is certainty is actually familiarity. We believe that the same things are going to happen over and over again. Like, we commute every day the same way and it's always the same, but it's not. At any moment, you know, somebody can hit your car, a meteor could fall from the sky, you know, many variables can change at any moment. And it's the familiarity is not certainty. It just feels like it.
Yeah, 100%. It's fun watching you two, because I have no legal world experience at all, but listening to you guys talk, it makes me realize that it doesn't matter the industry. The problems are out there all over the place, and you know, it's nice to see someone trying to tackle some of the problems and create some positivity. And I hope that it's happening in other areas professionally out there in the world. You know, as someone who is about to leave the Western medical world because I don't belong there. And part of it is because of people's inability to bring the humanity back to healthcare. And you know, but I as you're talking, it's like the humanity needs to be brought back everywhere, because we're not machines just pushing through. And you know, our emotions are evolved, whether you're in the legal field, whether you're in you know, the medical field. It's not just making widgets. There's emotions involved, and all of that needs to be addressed and not ignored. Like, it's a real part of what we do, and we are human. So yeah, let's make some changes out there, world.
I love that. As you were saying, I was thinking widgets. But I believe that that's, you know, our consumer culture has us as consumers. We're the widgets, right? We have to keep on producing so we can keep on buying, so we can keep on consuming. And we like to look at, I was thinking even, you know, teaching, like schools, you know, it's very much like these students have to be, you know, like this, and we need them to sit still, and we need, you know, yeah, we take the humanity out of just about everything, because it's, you know, there's a profit margin, you know.
So you obviously have been making this transition, right? So what are some limiting beliefs that you held that you kind of needed to let go of to be able to step into the space where you are now?
Well, it's hard because there's you know, there still are, you know, like, everybody has limiting beliefs, right? No matter how far we progress, there's limiting beliefs that we're not even yet aware of. But I think that for me, I had to let go of the belief that if I stopped coaching for even a moment, that I would lose my momentum and lose my drive. And I think that, you know, I actually had to trust that I needed the space and time to do my job as chapter president properly. to have time for me as a person and my goals, and have time for my daughter. And so something had to give. So this is one of the things that comes into my time management coaching, right? Is the idea that we can just stuff more things into a certain amount of time is completely incorrect, because something always has to give. And for me, in this moment, I had to put the coaching on the back burner as the lowest priority, because I was not going to put myself as the lowest priority. And so the limiting belief that if I don't keep doing this, I'm going to lose an opportunity to get back to where I was in the future. No, that's false. I had to trust and accept that once I'm ready to get back into my podcasting and coaching space, I'm going to be able to do it from a much different place than if I was tight and constricted and thin, worn thin, you know? So that's one where I'm at right now.
That's powerful, to be able to see it and work yourself through that. That's powerful stuff there.
And I think it's hard if you're a perfectionist as well. It's like, do. Who says that we're human doers rather than human beings? I forget who that comes from, but that's the idea. We have to just keep doing more and more and more and more and more. And it's like, nope, you have to be able to look at the panorama and say, where am I able to pull more time so that I have time for myself? And for most people, I think it is actually probably scrolling. Right? It's the social media, the scrolling, like the things that, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, okay, well, what do you really want? What do you really want? But something always has to give. There's just, we have the same 24 hours in a day. Yes, you can delegate. But at the end of the day, it's not about doing more. Sometimes it's about just doing the things that you do with priority, with awareness, and with nourishment, I would say.
I feel like also we've, society, and that's part of this masculine energy that's out there that we have to do. And the feminine energy is creation. The feminine energy is creative, and we create not so much by doing, but by being the space for creation to happen. I mean, you think like you make babies, but like you're not sitting there like doing. Like a seed is planted and it grows. And so it's being the space for whatever it is you want to create to grow, as opposed to being there micromanaging it and doing. And I think we all get to explore a little bit, like what does that space look like, and let go of the constant doing. And because you can create more when you're in that space of allowing and being. Yeah,
absolutely. If you're busy all the time, right? You don't have time to think. You don't have time to be there. Where's the creative juice flowing in that? There's none. I mean, it's very hard. Well, it's not hard. It's impossible to multitask. Our brains can't do it. So if we don't have the space to be creative, we don't have the openness, to allow things to manifest, then they're not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
I forget who it was that said that thinking is hard work too, like just sitting back and just let your mind go blank for a hot minute. That counts too. That's part of the process as well. So don't discount quiet time. I want to ask you for a book recommendation. We always say that we're putting together a library of must-read books. And as one of the few lawyers on this show, I'm curious what your perspective is. What's a book that you think everyone should read?
So the number one book I would recommend is The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. That book is, I first listened to it on an audiobook, then bought the book and read it and rereading it. She's such a phenomenal teacher, author. She is an intellectual. She's not just like woo woo, not that there's anything wrong with woo woo, but she's an intellectual. She went to Harvard. She's an ex-Mormon. And she wrote this beautiful book about getting back into integrity. And she starts talking about integrity, not in this thing that we think about honesty as integrity, but rather when you get to the root word of integrity, it's integer, right? And it's a whole number. And so the way of integrity is coming back into wholeness with ourselves, to completeness, understanding wholeness and completeness. And she actually does it through a parable of Dante's Inferno. And she talks about, basically she kind of deconstructs Dante's Inferno, which I had never read, but I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was about hell on earth, actually, and how we create hell on earth ourselves, as opposed to it being this place that we go to when we die. And she talks about how Dante's Inferno, the way we work through these, the hell of our own creation, is us out of alignment with ourselves and out of integrity with ourselves. And as long as, she says something like, the universe is always going to deliver to you. The universe always wants to deliver good things to you. But when you're not in integrity, when you're not whole, when you're not complete, when you're not in alignment with your values, the universe doesn't know where to deliver the goods. And I love that. And the book is phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. So I highly, highly, highly recommend it.
I think that is a new book to our library, which is phenomenal. We, like I always say, like at some point, people are just going to be recommending books that we've already put in the library, and but it never ceases to amaze me that our guests always come up with new books. I'm going, did you go and study all the books that other guests have said so you knew to bring a new one?
And there was a moment where I was like, oh God, I hope this is a new one.
It is totally a new one. So, and I love, like, the integrity really goes along with, one of our big themes here is authenticity.
Yeah.
And authenticity is being in integrity with yourself. So it's a great addition to the library. So we're getting close to the end of the show here, but I'm wondering if you have like one golden nugget, one piece of wisdom to share with our audience as a parting gift for them.
Oh, let's see. A parting gift of wisdom, I would say, is that this is one that was hard for me to accept, but I think is one of the most important lessons that I ever learned. And that's that people pleasers are liars. And I learned that from my coach. Mm-hmm. And that was really hard to hear as a people pleaser. But when I learned that, and I said, well, I don't want to be a liar. I'm somebody who I am honest to a fault. It's like, but when you are in the space of people pleasing, you are not being authentic. So this goes back to what we were just talking about. You're not in alignment with your values. You have no boundaries. And you're essentially, lying to people so that they will like you. But the you that they like isn't you at all. And so what's the point? So people pleasers are liars. And as hard as that is to stomach, to say, wait, but I want to be a person of integrity. I want to be a person of authenticity. I want to be a person in alignment with my values. And so that means I have to have strong boundaries. And I have to show up for myself first in order to show up for other people. And that's what it means to be, honest. Right?
I love that. And I especially, because I feel like because of it's a little harsh.
Yeah.
And I think that harshness, it can make that, because it sounds like it was that for you. Like the way
out of it
made sense, like to stop people pleasing. I have a similar thing like that really helped me was when I was told that givers who only give are takers. Like, to be a true giver, you also have to be willing to receive. Because if you never allow anybody to give to you, you're robbing them of the gift of giving.
Right.
And that was when I was like, oh, so like I need to let people help me and do things for me because they feel good doing it, and I need to let them feel good too. So this way of saying, people pleasers are liars, like that, it hits it home at a different level, that it's like, yeah, I really do have to change this.
Because I think that when we talk about people pleasing, we say it's like we know it's like not a positive thing, but we do believe it's a positive thing, right? Like, I'm such a people pleaser, I'm such a giver. What we're really saying is I'm such a martyr. And so please, like me more, because, she's such a martyr. And it's, it's such a self-serving lie. And we don't see the conceit and the disingenuousness of it. And when you hear that people pleasers are liars, that comes from Brooke Castillo, by the way. I want to give her massive credit for that. And you can be in your opposite of disingenuousness, ingenuousness. I don't know. Is that a word? Right. Because it's like, oh no, there's nothing good about that. There's nothing good about it. It doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. It's such a great reframe, and where you have to say to yourself, oh, maybe that's me, maybe that's true. I love that.
Yeah. I think you're freezing up there a bit, Graciela. There, she's kind of back. There we go. So, but I think that's hopefully that created a shift for somebody out there today, someone who needed to hear that message and stop people pleasing. If you're going to please somebody, please yourself.
That's what I was going to say. Please yourself. Please yourself.
Yes. Goes back to our earlier message today of from a previous episode of self-love. It's the rule. So love yourself, please yourself, and the world will be a better place for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Laura. It's a great pleasure having you on the show today. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And if you want to hear more from Laura or find out how to get in touch with her or myself or Graciela, check out the show notes. All the details are in there. And with that, I want to wish everybody a magical day.
Thank you. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.